Today we're going back to basics and we're focusing on the kettlebell snatch. Now the kettlebell snatch is the most technical kettlebell exercise that I tend to teach and tend to use myself, and a lot of times people have issues with it. Now let me just preface, in our last videos we went over the kettlebell clean. Now you could think about the kettlebell clean as the same technique you would use on the kettlebell snatch, but just the destination is to a lower point. So my first tip for people having issues with the snatch, especially on the lowering phase, which a lot of people have on the snatch and on the clean, because it jerks the arm or gets too far away from the body, is just simply make sure that your clean technique is as good as possible. If you're experiencing any complications, any challenges with the clean, I guarantee you it's going to be magnified on the snatch. It's not too dissimilar to, let's say, someone who's having an issue on the deadlift, and then they go to do a swing and they wonder why, like, why am I having so many problems? Why am my back sore? Well, usually it's because they haven't mastered the prerequisite movement that stems before it. So first tip is focus on the clean, really work on that hand insertion, guiding the kettlebell up close to the body. Now the element of the snatch that we're going to focus on today is the lowering phase. As I briefly mentioned, the lowering phase tends to be, for me, a lot of times the most risky part of the snatch, because when someone lowers the kettlebell, if they cast, or you could think about cast or pitch the kettlebell too far away from the body, the further away from the body is the kettlebell, especially if my hips pull out slightly early in the backswing, the kettlebell wants to pull me this way. When the kettlebell pulls me this way, there's a lot of bending force on my spine. So if you're really someone trying to do high volume snatching, let's say you're someone taking a hard style test where you have to do 100 snatches in 5 minutes, every single rep that kettlebell drops forward of the body and you pull those hips out, that's a lot of stress on your back, and I guarantee you, you're going to increase the likelihood of injury of your spine, and or you're going to pre-fatigue all those important muscles that you're going to need on the back side of the body. So with the lowering phase, I'm going to give you two big tips. The first tip I want to give you is we're going to focus on what we call the half snatch with a lowering emphasis. Now the half snatch with a lowering emphasis is simply an exercise where the kettlebell lowers on the way down, and I'll give you some tips, and then we're going to bring it into the rack. Then we press overhead. So we're only focusing on half the movement. That can simplify the movement and make it easier for your brain and body to wrap itself around it. Now I'm going to focus right now with a competition kettlebell. The technique should be able to be transferred over any bell you use, but I'm going to use this one right now, and I might even demonstrate with that one as well. I'm going to clean the kettlebell up to the chest, press up overhead. Now for the lowering phase, the type of lowering phase that I'm going to do is one that requires a few things. One, I'm going to slightly counterbalance, slightly lean back my torso. Okay, so I lean back my torso, and then I also allow the arm and shoulder to rotate forward a little bit. What that rotation of the arm and shoulder does is it unlocks the elbow and allows the kettlebell to fall closer down to the midline, right? Because once again, the further away the kettlebell is, the more dangerous it is from the body. To the body. So we lower down, and then once the upper arm makes contact with the rib cage, then we're safe to go back. So to show you again, do it right here. Clean the kettlebell up. I press. Now I lean back, rotate, and I let the kettlebell fall. Press. Lean back, rotate. Lean back. So, few details on that. When the kettlebell's in the overhead position, as I lean back, you don't want to just, you might have noticed that I was rotating my palm up. That's a good cue. You can rotate the palm up, but if you just rotate the palm and you don't rotate the arm, it can make it a lot harder to transition into the downswing. So what I like thinking is I rotate almost like you're rotating your elbow forward, because when the elbow rotates forward, you're also bringing the shoulder, and even a little bit of torso rotation can come along with it. Then you rotate the palm up, and then you catch the kettlebell. What we want to do when we're in the overhead position, the kettlebell's sitting at that nice 45-degree angle. It's sitting at that 45-degree angle. To make a seamless hand transition from the heel of the palm into the fingertips, as the kettlebell falls, I jump the kettlebell from the hand into the fingers. And ideally, when I feel the weight, so pretty much in this position, I feel the weight of the kettlebell in my arm should be completely straight. and then I go into the backswing. A lot of people have issues when they make that transition too late, or they try and, let's say, curl or negative curl the weight on the kettlebell as it's falling. So I come here, boom, and then it drops in the hands. What you want to do is you want to make that transition and let it hop into the fingers. So I lean back, boom, it hops in the fingertips. Oh, too much juice, too much juice. I lean back, hop in the fingers, and then I clean. One more time. Lean back, hop to the finger, and clean to the chest. So that will take some time. You need to learn and you need to feel what it's like to have that kettlebell jump from here to here. So that technique is more of, you can think of it like, we use it in kettlebell sport because it is the most efficient way to drop a kettlebell. You could think of it more like a cork style type of drop where the belt rolls around the side close to the midline into the backswing. Now, if you're someone, let's say, who's getting ready for a hard style type test, based on the criteria that you need to do for a hard style type test, let's say if it's strong first, RKC, strength matters, whatever it may be, the technique that you're going to be assessed on and you have to do is one that involves, as opposed to the kettlebell rolling around the side, one where the kettlebell has to flip over the top, almost like as if you were shooting a basket. So I'm going to go ahead and demo that with the cast iron bell, because if you're training for a certification like that, or this is a type of technique that you want to use, more than likely you're going to have to do it with a cast iron bell. You can do either technique with either bell, it's all good. But now we're going to do the same exact drill, except I'm going to give you a few pointers on this type of technique. So we're going to go ahead and press. Now to lower the kettlebell, I'm still going to use that counterbalance. So I lean back to bring the kettlebell closer to the center line, but now the kettlebell is going to flip over the top. So from here, if I were to drop it, so that was me actually performing the full snatch. You can do the full snatch, or you can do that half snatch where you come down, clean it to the chest, and press overhead. Either one's going to be fine. But that cue of leaning back brings the kettlebell closer to the midline. The other tip that I can give you is, as you lean back, you want to guide the kettlebell down close to the body and then feed it back. The ultimate thing you don't want to have happen is you don't want to cast it far away from the body. So think like you're flicking a basketball, keep it close, keep it close, keep it close, and then load the posterior chain. So feel that stretch on the back side of the body. So depending on what technique you're using, whether it's more of a corkscrew type to keep it even closer to the body, or more of a casting type or a pitching type, those are tips you can use. Now, I've got two bells in front of me, and I alluded to me doing the first drill with this bell and the second drill with the cast iron, as you saw. But I just want to talk about, like, even though we have two different bells here and the technique should remain the same, in all honesty, there is going to be finite nuances and finite differences. Because they're different, even though they're both kettlebells, they're made different, right? Like, this handle is fatter, this handle is slightly thinner, this bell size is closer, more concentrated, this bell size is bigger. This kettlebell, if you look, has a hole in the center, so the distribution of mass is much more equally distributed compared to this one. So even if you were to use the same type of technique on different bells, the more and more repetitions you lay down and the more you become a master of the kettlebell and of this tool, you should notice and you should feel these finite differences. If you're a beginner, you're just starting out, try to keep it as simple as possible. Just pick one bell, pick one technique, stick with it until you've got enough practice. But ultimately, especially for the coaches out there, I really do see a lot of value in you playing and lifting with as many types of bells as you can get. Lift with competition bells, lift with cast iron bells, perform the Russian or hinge-based technique, perform the pendulum-based technique, get yourself as much experience as you can, because not only is it good for you to know as a coach, but when you have an athlete or you have a client coming to you for knowledgeable advice, you'll be able to speak much more intelligently on the topic. So just know you can do either bell, but just understand technique and the feeling, especially in the hands, which is your connection to the kettlebell, will be different based off of what type you use. So I hope you enjoyed that lowering tip on the snatch. We went over two different types to recap. We went over more of the corkscrew type. We went over more of the hard style casting type. But the whole goal is to keep that kettlebell close towards the body and make a nice, quick, and seamless transition from the heel of the palm into those fingertips. So give that tip or give those tips a try when you're performing your snatch, and hopefully it'll make your lowering phase a lot better.